Hi there. This position occurred in Madrid, 1934. The position is black to move their 31st move. The 31st move is easy to see, as it involves a simple move to the 7th rank. And then we have knight a4. Now this position is little known, according to Hans Bollmester in his book Winning Chess Combinations. And after rook d2, b3 is not really possible, as what is the situation? b3 is not really possible, as cb3, ab3 and c4 are winning for black, which c4 is check with the bishop on b6. So that I'm going to just show you the first two moves, okay? And then it's your move from there. And then I'm going to be quiet for a little bit, because this is actually a really good one to have a look at and visualize at the same time. So I'm not going to move the pieces. No, I won't. So we've got rook d2, knight a4. It's your move there. Okay, so I'm quiet now. And if I was at home, I'd be doodling around with my masks in front of my face and all that sort of making facial expressions and blah blah blah. So anyway, I'm going to be quiet for a little bit longer for you to have a look at the following move. And now notice the way the king is nicely tucked away on h7, with the shield of the g7 pawn in its way to the rook that's marauding black's camp on the 7th rank at b7. So here we have rook d2 and knight a4. So it's your move now. What sort of move would you think of playing here for black? Here we have the following move. So I'm going to be quiet for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to show you the next move. Is this move 32 or is it 35? We have the move, here it comes, rook b2. Wow, rook b2. What's that all about? Don't I just take it? Of course I do. So take the rook. Then what does black do next? Play c3. What happens after rook b2? Or rook b6? So knight b2, c3, rook b6, c2, knight d3, c4, knight c1. It's not checked because the bishop's taken off. And then white's winning. Yay! It's good. There's a trick position. I tricked you because this is actually a loss for black, isn't it? So we have knight b2. So c3, and here comes rook b6 as promised. Okay, so that if c2 now, then black is merely met with knight d3 and knight c1, and I'm sure that everyone for white can win that. But here is a wee surprise. The following move is very, very startling, and I hope you see it. And there are only a few moves here to play. There's probably only 3 moves here to play. There's pawn takes rook. Pawn takes rook. That looks quite good, doesn't it? But then we've got the old proverbial knight d3 and the pawn blockades, and the king now can run over to the protection of the queening squares, and at the same time the knight is watching c1 and also f4 for the entry of the black king later on. So here we've got a wee surprise here. In fact, the surprise is that here black resigned because they didn't see rook b6. Correct? No, it's not correct. Because here black now played the startling c4. Now let's look at it. Now, why don't we just get in behind? No, that won't work. Get in behind with the rook. Taking the pawn on c4 with the knight doesn't work. Moving the rook to c6 to take the c4 pawn with the rook fails to cb2. And there are other variations from this position too that you may like to watch with me after I play the main moves. But hang on, we've got rook a4, rook b4 now, haven't we? Doesn't that just stop everything from happening? Because if pawn takes knight, then we go rook takes b2, and then we can go eat up the c4 pawn very quickly, and the a pawn will be easy to win, and we'll just have to play a rook to say f3 and h3 pawn, and we can just leave our rook there forever and start pushing our a pawn later on for white. Here came rook b4 then. Wow, that's it. Game over. Game over, man. Game over. Until black resigns. No, black doesn't resign. Black now plays a bit of a surprising move again. a5. Now look, even after rook c4, okay, and then we can go rook check to h4, check. Doesn't matter because the pawn is going to take the knight on b2. So here's black's next move. White's next move was knight a4. And upon the next move, you've got to be very careful with these moves, because if we just play c2 now, then rook c4 and yay, we win the game. It's game over. But black's already resigned this a few times. Now we simply have what move now? And we all know, don't we, that knights are very bad against defending against passed pawns. So we have a b4. And now this is the point of resignation. Now I will show you some of the more interesting variations in the book from Hans Bollmester. Where are we? Next page, Dave, next page. We've got back to the start. Okay, so we got bump, 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 c3. Now, some of the variations of this new variation. C4 check. Now, if rook takes bishop, now for black, rook for white, rook b6. Then we have c d3, taking the knight on d3. Rook c6, d7, and wins, as rook d6 is no good, as we go c2, rook d2, c1, queen, king f2, or rook d1, queen d1, king f2, if king f2 then queen d2, etc. We have king f1. Then we have king f1 after c4 check. We have cd3, king e1, c2, king d2, and can you find the move for black there after king d2? We have the lovely move bishop e3 check, driving away the king from the protected c2 pawn on c2, where the pawn is on d3. The king has to leave the defensive c1 square with probably king e3, capturing the bishop, and then we have queen c1, and it's all over there too. And one more. Instead of knight d3, we have rook e7. Okay, that's an interesting line. So that now we have pawn. I'll play these moves out for you. Pawn takes knight, threatening queen. Next move, so a rook to e1. I'm sure you can see what's going to happen here. Okay, rook e1. And then we have c4, check, king f1, and c3, and easily wins for black, where black's actually still got the bishop. So I hope you enjoyed that wee session. I think it's very thematic for the endgame, to know the endgame, or to be aware of these sorts of things. Pawns, the good old pawns. Their chief, the good old pawns. That's David Wegener over and out. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye.